All right, let me welcome everyone back. Ladies and gentlemen, I trust that you are all energized because I know that NEDCO did a good job of feeding you, at least for now. So you got some refreshments, you got something to eat, something to drink, and of course we're going to continue this morning's proceedings. I just wanted to ground us where we left off and share one of the comments that we got. I know that we have been getting comments all the time, and this one is a positive critique, as Mr. Lewis taught us. This person, Jacqueline from online, she says, "Congrats, NEDCO, on another impressive conference. I attended last year virtually, and I'm pleased to be able to attend again this year. From the presentation so far, Mr. Chowlinon, and the dynamic young man, and now Mr. Lewis, the information given is high caliber. I am so inspired. Thank you, NEDCO. Keep up the good work." Let's give a round of applause to NEDCO, of course. And I hope that when we leave here this evening, that we will continue to be inspired. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our masterclass, Discover, Engage, Deliver. And if you are looking for ways to help your business stand out from the competition with the right products, and you want to learn how to move your customers to purchase, then this session is for you. Our first speaker in this area is passionate about holistic development of the manufacturing sector in TNT and currently serves as the president of TTMA, the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association, on its board of directors. He holds positions as chairman of Export Centers Company Limited and director of the boards of Evolving Technologies and Enterprise Development Company Limited, or ETEC, and he's also the Vanguard, in charge of Vanguard Hotel Limited. With extensive leadership experience, including as the former CEO of Langston Roach Industries and managing director of Answer Coatings Limited, he brings valuable expertise to the business landscape. He also has a BSc in Economics and Management, a postgraduate diploma in Corporate and Commercial Law from the University of the West Indies, and an international MBA from the UWI Arthur Lockjack School of Business. Please put your hands together and allow me to welcome Mr. Roger Roach, founder and chief executive officer of Lazari Apparel Limited. Let's welcome him as he comes.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. After those presentations this morning, I am not sure what I can possibly add to the discussions, but I was asked to speak on how to help you or business stand out from the competition with the right products and learn how to move your customers to purchase. Very easy topic to speak about after Derek's presentation this morning, because all the fundamentals that go into that he presented during his discourse. But let me start this way by quoting for you Theodore Roosevelt's Man in the Arena, because every entrepreneur needs to hear this, and it is something that you're going to live through as an entrepreneur as you witness the story given this morning by Kyle Maloney. And I quote, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. Credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory or defeat. And that is really the entrepreneurial journey. The entrepreneurial journey is not a straight line. It's hills and it's valleys. It's hills and it's valleys. And eventually, once the why is good enough, once the cause is good enough, those who stick to it will usually triumph in the end. And triumph is whatever that means to you. Derek says his success is doing what he wants to do, whenever he wants to do it. For some people, it might be a financial reward. For some persons, it may be to leave your family in a better financial state than you have met it, and so on and so on. So let's talk about products. To differentiate products, it goes back to things that you learn in basic entrepreneurial classes. There's the quality of the product, price. You can differentiate yourself by your service offering, and service offering in today's world will usually revolve around speed. And then, as Derek said, whatever you're doing, it has to be packaged appealingly. And just to make a comment, sometimes that is where we fail. Some people have a very good product, works well, but when you look at the packaging, it doesn't say, buy me now, right? So the thing about it is that every brand, and I want to use the word brand because they're products and then they're brands. Most people buy brands, they don't buy products. They will buy the brand, right? And the brand must have a promise. Now, what is the brand's promise? It is what you are proposing to deliver to your clients, right? And what it is you're proposing to deliver that means anything to your clients, it has to be a solution to their problem. So clients have a problem, whatever it is, whether they're buying shampoo or hairdressing or dishwashing liquid or toilet bowl cleaner or clothing. It is a problem that they're trying to solve. Some problems are reoccurring. So hopefully you have a product that can solve that problem on an ongoing basis. Like bathroom tissue. It's an ongoing basis. You have to solve that problem. And that tissue has to be packaged right. And I just want to be real with you. So I have a company. It's called Lazari Apparel Limited. And we manufacture clothing. Basic clothing. We manufacture polo shirts for men and women. We manufacture Oxford shirts. Now an Oxford shirt is a working man's shirt. You will see all the trucks, whether it is Kiss trucks, Bermuda trucks, all these trucks, they wear these shirts with this logo on it. It's a working shirt. It lasts a long time. Oxford shirts. We manufacture industrial workwear. How do these three elements tie together? Industrial workwear, it could be shirts, pants, coveralls. You'll see the reflective tape, the safety clothing. We chose that line of business to coin those products together because we can sell all of them to the same customer. So the same customer that has an office, where the office staff needs shirts or the salespeople need shirts, right, may have merchandisers going out on the road, and if it's warm, they will need polos. These polo shirts will be branded. And then they may have a warehouse. And then that warehouse has forklifts driving up and down, and therefore they need to comply with the OSH requirements, and we sell safety garments. And if you look at the value proposition, and you look at our business, you will think we sell clothing. But anybody can do what we're doing. We're very cognizant of that. With the right mindset, anybody can make a polo shirt. You can either make it or you can import it and you can buy it, right? Anybody can make a shirt and you can get industrial clothing in 10 different places. I can name them out for you. So we don't actually sell clothing. What we sell is convenience. So we went into the game to sell convenience. What do I mean by convenience? We have persons in our establishment, we call them customer development specialists. And those specialists, what they do is that they attend to your needs. So when you call into an organization and you have a need, we have persons who will visit you and ascertain those needs. If you need samples for your staff to try on before they get to their size requirements, they will provide those samples. And when we get to the point where we actually acquire your order, we provide an end-to-end service. So we manufacture the garments, we do the branding, and then we deliver these products free of charge to you. So there's nobody else, right? If you go to any of our competitors, and I don't want to give them the extra mileage by calling their names today, but if you go by any of our competitors, you will realize you have to go to the establishment and pick up the clothing, and then you have to carry it by somebody else to do the printing or the branding. We provide our one-stop service, and therefore customers buy from us from the point of convenience. We went into a market that already existed. People were already selling shirts, already selling polos, already selling industrial wear. How will we be able to capture that vast percentage of market share in such a short space of time? Because we only manufacture in 3 years now. And we sell to all the largest companies. So we sell to Angostura, to Vemco, to Coca-Cola, to PriceSmart, everybody, right? It is because we offered something that did not exist in the market, and that is how we differentiated ourselves from the marketplace. And what we offered was convenience, right? We even tell you what the product is going to look like before you get it. So we do a mock-up on our avatar so you can see what your staff member will look like. And if we have a picture, we can even give you a pictorial view of what you would look like wearing our clothing before you actually get it. That's how we differentiated ourselves from the marketplace. The other thing you have to do as an entrepreneur to differentiate yourself is that you have to become an expert in your area. So if you listen to Derek, you'll realize without a doubt that Derek is an expert in this creative space of developing ideas, branding, and most importantly, execution. You have to become an expert. So when somebody's asking you about your product or service, your first differentiating point is you. People buy from people. If you have a product, if you go downstairs, you realize that these people are selling tangible products. And in most cases, it's their owner operated, right? So one of the most essential skills you have to learn is presentation and selling skills, right? You have to sell yourself first so that persons can buy from you and feel confident that when they exchange their money, you will give them that kind of service, right? And a lot of entrepreneurs, when a question was asked about failure, you know, and there's a quote that you must fail your way to success. And Derek says he's still recovering. Well, if you ask most entrepreneurs, all of them, all of us are still recovering. Because even when you have a successful business in this area, sometimes you're still paying bills from another business that failed before. So the successful business is still paying outstanding creditors, debtors, your family, your friends, other people who have lent you money, given you money before. That money was lost. You strike gold this time, don't forget it, right? So you're always in recovery mode, but at that same time, you're being successful. And that's why the why is important. You have to know why you're doing what you're doing. You know, a couple of weeks ago, the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association hosted the Trade and Investment Convention. And in the position of TTMA president, I'm in a unique space to see both very large and micro businesses, right? And the one thing that you must take away is that no business starts large. All businesses, all start small, right? And that small spark usually starts with an idea, right? But an idea by itself will get you nowhere. You have to put that idea into action. And sometimes the action requires no financing until you reach one of these stumbling points that Derek mentioned earlier. But the ability to start usually requires very little capital, but it requires action on your part to start going. And I want to let you know that action is the most important ingredient for success, not money, right? And in terms of differentiation, sometimes differentiation could be as little as a different color. Simple. So if everybody's packaging is white and you do yellow, you can differentiate your product that way, right? If you have a brick and mortar and nobody's doing delivery, you can differentiate your service by doing delivery. You can differentiate your product by your name. You can coin a unique name. And then you can differentiate your products by finding new uses for the same product. So you can have a product meant for one area, and you can develop new ways to use that product so that it expands the usefulness of that product. Sasha Cosmetics is an example of making a product that already existed for almost 100 years. They came up with a slogan called Makeup for People of Color. And they made a bold claim that their product is designed for people with yellow skin undertones. Who could dispute that claim? No one. In other words, you have to believe it before you test it. So they made a claim. They may have done the testing, but you have not done it. But because they made this claim, people of yellow skin undertones use it because they said so. And I want to say that because sometimes you have to make your claim, right? You have to make your claim before other people believe it. So sometimes you can tell the market what they need. And Sasha told the market what they need. Just like Derek told the market what it needed with Insomnia. When Insomnia came out, let me tie the story. I was in Barbados. I was going to university. And somebody told me about this party that starts in 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning and goes till lunchtime the next day. I said that party is doomed to fail. I was in Barbados. Never tell Derek this. I said that party is going to fail. Nobody wants to party more than 4 or 5 hours. Right? Until some of my friends who was in Barbados was buying tickets to come to Insomnia to fly back to university 2 days later. They take 1 day to recover and then fly back. So the party was a resounding success. Because he told the market that you need to party between these hours when there's nothing else to do. He told the market. And the market believed him. And it was a resounding success. So I know my time is short. So I just want to leave you with one last thing before I go. And that is, success is a journey. But it's a long, sometimes hard journey. And an overnight success sometimes takes 10,000 hours. If you're not prepared to put in those hours, it makes no sense to start in the first place. Because whatever you've read, you usually see success stories at the point in which people are successful. But sometimes what is hidden from us is the actual journey, the actual blood, the actual sweat, the actual tears. And you have to have that resolve before you begin that you're going to see this thing through till the end. Thank you very much. Are these mine?
Thank you so much, Mr. Roach. Of course, 2 things that I pulled out from your presentation: become an expert in your area and also make your claim before you enter. And I think that was one of the most important takeaways that entrepreneurs here are going to remember before we leave this evening. At this time, I want to welcome a powerhouse of information and expertise, a facilities management architect that thrives on helping others and providing a foundation for many to upgrade themselves and promote their businesses. She wears several hats in her professional life and has oversight of all open campus sites throughout TNT and is part of a quality management committee and safety committee. Her educational background includes certification as a project management professional or PMP, MS certified application specialist, risk management, as well as her BSc in information systems and management and a postgraduate certificate in business administration. She continues to be passionate about how she uses her skills to influence those around her and at the helm of embracing and sharing information through topics of growing importance. And if you don't know who that powerhouse is yet, her name is Ms. Shivani Sunarine, and she's the Senior Administrator of the Facilities Unit at UWI Open Campus. And she's going to lead us along with, of course, we have the Mr. Herman Herbert of Facilitech. They are going to both speak about design thinking for entrepreneurs. Let's welcome Ms. Sunarine and, of course, Mr. Herbert as they come.
Ready?
The click. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for that warm welcome. And it's a very interesting story that we have to tell, which is design thinking. And as Roger said, we telling you what we have to do, right? So we're telling the entrepreneurs that you got to start to use design thinking. So let's go back, right? The first slide. So this is my design thinking story. My design thinking story is where we are in the process of building a global platform for connecting customers with products and best practices throughout the world. So this is my personal design thinking story. We have used design thinking in so many different areas. But here we are to tell you all about how you can use it in entrepreneurship and how we have some certain examples that we like to share. Herman, who is Herman? Herman also got a design thinking story where he's using emerging technologies for the classroom. Design thinking. So our presentation here, this is our agenda on what exactly is design thinking. We'll tell you some definitions, some approaches. We'll show you a practical example for a local wine business that we have used design thinking. And of course, we have used design thinking in all different fields, from facilities management, IT, all different fields you can use it. But we'll show it, make it applicable here today. We'll also show our COVID-19 example and how we are using design thinking to bring back post-pandemic, as we see. So what is design thinking? Herman, over to you.
Okay, good day, folks. Thanking for NEDCO for giving us the opportunity to speak about these topics. And for those of you in the audience who are entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, experienced entrepreneurs, this whole topic of design thinking is for you. Now, when I hear the term design thinking, it may be, for those of you who are not initiated in what it is, it may kind of fly over your head. What is this design thinking about? Is it about designing things? The term of itself may be confusing. So let's depart from it a little bit, and let's just think about it as a more refined way of coming up with business processes and business ideas, right? So the traditional approach for most of us, when we get into business, how does it start? It starts as a passion, right? Some of us may be thinking about something all the time. You always want to do X. You like cooking, so you probably work in a restaurant. I decide one day, I want to open my own restaurant, right? You might be somebody in technical field. You might be an electrician. You want to open your own business doing electrical work. It could be anything of that nature, but sometimes it starts as a passion. Then you have those of you who are technical people, right? So you may be working in an office, working in an environment where you would have developed technical skills over a period of time. And based on that technical skill, you get the confidence to start your own business. So, and then you have other scenarios where probably an opportunity would have presented itself, right? So those are some of the pathways some of us get into entrepreneurship. And the traditional approach with that is that you find, okay, you get the opportunity, you get into business, and there's generally what we would call a linear approach to get into business. Basically, you have an idea, you have a solution, you come up with a way how to deploy the solution, and you act and you implement, right? The problem with that in many cases, especially in today's environment, is that when you act and you implement without certain type of testing, and so some of the things we're going to talk about, you find yourself in problems because now, when the business was already established, then you find yourself having issues in terms of the product or the service that you're offering the public. Now, the statistics will show that 20% of businesses fail in the first 2 years, 45% fail in the next 5 years, and a whopping 65% of businesses fail in 10 years. I don't know if NEDCO could probably back me up with that, right? So those are the statistics. We need a better way to approach business, a more refined way, a way in terms of when you're approaching business to reduce the risk of failure and basically to also give you the opportunity to really zero in on the business that you want to establish. Because sometimes you may start off thinking, let's use the restaurant business for example. You may say, I want to open a restaurant. I work in this restaurant for all these years. I know how to cook all these different type of foods, maybe Creole food, maybe East Indian food, whatever it may be. And you didn't really test the market. You just believe, okay, I could cook. I know people who like food, who like my cooking. Everybody say I could cook good. And there you go and spend a certain money, go to NEDCO, take out a loan, establish a thing, and you didn't test the market to see if the market really wanted that particular type of product. Maybe it could have been something else using very similar skills. So let's go into this whole concept of design thinking and what it is, right? So as you're seeing, it's a process in which you utilize empathetic, creative, innovative, analytical skills to provide solutions. So what you're really looking at is that you put in the customer first, right? And it keeps the user end in mind. So, with the whole concept where, where we were talking about the linear approach, many times people, as Mr. ROACH was saying, which we agree, where you could tell the market what you want, right? That is one approach. But then at the same time, too, you have to also know what the market wants as well, too, eh? And then many times it requires, in terms of us research, a lot of questioning. You may have to do data analysis. You have to actually employ professionals to really zero in on what the market wants in terms of the product you want to offer, right? So you keep the design thing, it keeps the end user in mind, and it comprises of a cycle of different things that can be repeated, and it involves 5 steps, right? So this is really a framework, right? A way of executing business, a way of coming up with ideas, as a framework that you could use all the time. Now, even though you're looking like this in terms of the screen, in terms of like a linear approach, it's really a cyclical approach. Meaning to say, you can start at one point, come around and go back to the starting line, and then you realize you make mistakes, so you may have to come back again, and you start back at the beginning. So it's a cyclical approach as opposed to a linear approach as what we see on the screen. So it starts off with this whole concept of empathize, right? Where you're trying to really understand the problem. And many times, when you do the research, many of these, the gurus in design thinking, because the thing about it is too, that many of the companies, the successful companies today that we know about, the Apples, the IBM, right, Adidas, some of these successful companies, they all use design thinking approach. And with regard to the empathize phase, this is where they really know zero into the problem, they zero into terms of the customer and what it is they really want. And in many cases too, if it is a company like Facebook, for example, when they had reached a particular point where all the in-house development was exhausted, they went out into the public and did what you call open source innovation. Meaning to say they went out to those developers outside, those software engineers, and asked them now to come up with products to use on the Facebook platform. And that is a way of empathizing, because you're going to the customer and asking the customer, well, what do you want? How can I serve you? Right? So that is one aspect in terms of when it is you're trying to conceive a particular product and conceive a particular service, you have to establish some aspect of empathy in terms of the way how you go forward, right? Then you have to define what the problem is. What is the problem? What am I trying to really solve? And that is a very important aspect too, because many times you may start off thinking, as I was saying before, that you want to serve a particular demographic, you want to give a particular product, and without actually defining the problem, you may find that you're actually going in a different direction at which you're really supposed to be going. This defined aspect too requires some research. Good? Now, in today's scenario, in today's environment, you have to also understand, it's much different to how things would have been 10 years ago, 20 years ago, where somebody could get up one morning, right, come up with an idea to do something, and he have a fairly good chance of being successful. Now, I could remember this, given my own example. I grew up in San Fernando. I remember when we were going to school, we used to have to walk about 2 miles to get to a doubles vendor one evening when we walking home from school. 2 miles walking in his hot sun, somewhere to get our doubles, right? Now, that same 2 miles, you might probably find about 10 doubles vendors, right? And that's just how trend is today. Every particular product or service you could think about, you have at least about 10 or 20 people offering the same product or service. You have to come now with your own aspect. So I think somebody was talking about differentiation. We have to differentiate your serving, and that is how the define phase is. In terms of you have to actually now figure out what it is you want to do that differentiates you from other persons offering the same product and the same service. Then have the idea stage, and this is the stage that everybody likes, right? Because now you get the opportunity now to think about what you're doing, right? And also too, it encourages collaboration because you do have all the information, right? Many cases and many times, in order to really come up with good ideas, you have to include other people, right? Go on the days where, you think about somebody, lock up in a room somewhere, thinking about some kind of invention, and they get this wow moment and they come up with the invention, them alone. Many cases, the kind of products you're seeing today on the shelves, the cell phones, all the different things, those are products that were conceived based on collaboration, as opposed to one person just coming up with the idea on their own. So you have to understand that, and when you're coming up with your ideas, bring other people in the mix. Now, sometimes people don't like to do that, especially in Trinidad and Tobago, because you tell yourself, well, boy, if I tell people about my idea, other people will take it, you'll run with it. Yes, that is a chance you have to take, it's a risk, but then sometimes if you alone decide to go on your own, alone trying to conceive an idea, it may lack certain elements that could really push the idea forward and bring it to a place where you really need to be. And then you have the prototyping stage. Prototyping is part of, is an aspect of product development, where you have your prototype, you have what you call your minimum viable product, right? You have your working concept, all these different aspects of product development. But basically what it says, is a fancy word, but you just really basically, if it is you're doing a particular product, you're actually now creating something, right, that you could offer to the public. So if you're doing peppers, right, you're thinking about pepper, you have this particular recipe, your granny passed down, okay, now it's time to actually put this product together, put it the way how you want it now, and give it to persons to test, to let them know, okay, it's tasting good, what it's missing, what it have, what it don't have, etc. If it could be a food product, it could be an actual solution to a problem, it could be a service. You are now taking this service and conceiving something that you could actually put out there for persons to test. Now, this is a very important stage in terms of the development of ideas, a stage that many people tend to pass. Because you tell yourself sometimes you get excited with the idea, right? You put it out there, they say, no, boy, everybody wants this idea. And you didn't actually put out a prototype. Sometimes you go to NEDCO, you take a loan, right, to develop something, but you really didn't go through that proper testing phase where the public now could say, you know what, you need to do X, you need to do Y. I don't like the color. I find it too big, I find it too small. The public now will give you that criticism that you need to refine your product, and that's what the prototyping stage is about. And then you have the last part where you have the testing phase, where you do research development, and you find in that stage now, if you're not successful, you come back to the first phase now, where the empathize phase. And that is generally what it means with regard to design thinking. So we have a practical example with the wine business. Shivani Bulam will talk about that.
Thanks, Ahmad. So, as we said, we use design thinking in all different industries. You could use design thinking in facilities management. Herman and I could stand up here and give you all probably hundreds of stories how we have used design thinking. It's not only to create new products, improve products, but also looking at the processes of your business, right? A number of different examples. But we're here with entrepreneurs, and we want to discuss a practical example that I'm sure will hit home for us in terms of a local wine business. Now, this design thinking model is, as Herman indicated, 5 steps. First stage is empathy. Now, that's a very, very important word, Herman, as we know. We have to listen. We have to hear what the customer wants. And listening to people, you get ideas, you empathize. And our favorite saying is, people don't know what they don't know. I think this is the same thing you were saying about the FET. People didn't know they wanted it, right? So you tell them what they want, right? So empathize, listen to people, but sometimes people don't know what they don't know. Well, that's how I see it. So empathy is the first stage. It's a very important aspect in design thinking. This is where we did it with our local wine company, and we've done it with many chocolate persons, different areas, tea, coffee, for entrepreneurs. Empathy. The first question that we always ask, do we know the end user? And this is what we ask the wine company. Do you know the end user, the customer, the taste, and the preference? Example for flavors and appearance. So do you really know what people want? I asked us, did you do a feasibility study of the wine business to totally understand the customer needs? I know, Roger, you were talking about the value proposition. Did you do a feasibility study, or did you just get up a morning and say, all right, well, my grandmother talked about what? Local wine, and let me try to do it. That may work too, we're not saying no, but did we do a feasibility study? Of course, they didn't. And this is the whole conversation, how it evolved. Now, my story is this. I told her, I don't like sweet wines. And all the wine that I'm seeing with the local wine was sweet wine at a point. I prefer dry wine. Besides the taste of the wine, if I am purchasing a bottle of wine, I like the look and the feel of the bottle. It must appeal to me. So it's everything. Empathy. Listen to people. What are some tips with empathy? A common mistake when you're building something new is assuming, and this is a real mistake I find we're making in Trinidad. You assume you already understand your customer base, and you skip over the research phase. You just skip it over. You may know your core customer. So if you're selling wine, obviously you're selling to people who want to drink wine. But innovative new ideas are often born by exploring extreme users, power users who push your product or service to its limits, or people you have never considered as a customer. Now, I love to do that. When you are trying to, see if your product will work, talk to somebody that, might give you a lot of problems. Well, again, design thinking, we use it in facilities a lot. And, I know people who will always criticize this project. I'll bring them in the conference room and say, here, tell me why you think the thing will fail. So, get extreme users, get problematic people. As sure as entrepreneurs, you could find people who will criticize your product, right? You could get people. Bring them in the room, no problem. So, you have to converse. This is empathy. You have to converse, have conversations. We don't like to have conversations, as we said, Herman. A lot of people now, what they want to do is just, you sit down in the room and you come about with your idea for yourself because you're afraid somebody will take the idea. Converse. But if you have a good idea and you action it out, people could take it, but you will always improve. This is what design thinking is about. Design thinking, yes, saying you have a product, but you can make it better. So anybody could take the first part. Take the first part, no problem. We will get another one. Converse. Converse with persons who do not drink wine, but maybe whiskey drinkers. Now, she never thought about doing that. I said, talk to the people who drink scotch too and whiskey. Oh gosh, I wonder if this is an example that we should be talking about at 12 o'clock in the day, right? Why do they like whiskey? Why people like whiskey, right? So you converse. Then you connect. After you converse, so all of this is part of empathy, folks. You have to connect with people. How do you connect? By chatting with them, you may realize that they drink this for many reasons. People may drink it for nostalgia, right? And it helps you to form different products. And when Herman comes down, he will talk about the ideation where new products was formed when we took this entire design thinking just with a bottle of wine, local wine. And then you have to create. Can we use these ideas to create a wine that people may now appreciate? So it's ideation. We are given a model for how we could use it. Empathy. And of course, the second stage is to define. After you understand your empathy, really your empathy, you're doing that, you have to define it. What can be the new problem statement for the wine business? Because why did you come about and say you want to sell wine, or you want to sell Polori, or you want to sell food, whatever you want to do? Why did you do that? Did you do that because it's your Herman doing it, or Shavani doing it, or NEDCO doing it? Why did you do it? It must be there to solve a problem, or it must be seen as an opportunity, right? So based on the 4 W's, who, what, where, and why. Who are you doing this for? People come about with all these different products, Herman. Who you're selling it to? You're hoping somebody will buy? And one of the speakers spoke about the why. We love to speak about the why of everything. You must talk about the why of something. Why are you doing it? You could ask me, why did I come here? I came here why? Because I want people to understand design thinking, you know. Why? What? Where? And why? Well, I jumped to the why because to me is the most important aspect. Why are you doing something? So when we ask these questions with the winemaker, right? We develop a problem statement. And the problem statement is this. As a wine drinker, now there's a whole process to do this, huh? As a wine drinker, I want to get lost in a moment from my past. That's what whole conversation came up, you know. As a wine drinker, I want to feel happy and excited. As a wine drinker, I want to feel a part of a circle of prosperity. The importance of doing this is to define the problem or opportunity that a local wine business will be able to solve, because you're solving a problem, or you see it as an opportunity to sell wines. Because that's the reason why you're doing something. You're selling, yes, to make revenue for yourself, but people are not going to buy something from you if they don't see it solving a problem that they may have had, or it's an opportunity. So it's a problem statement. And of course, now we have reached to ideate. Now, ideation, as Herman comes on the floor, you would have many different tools to ideate. And all of us here who are in businesses understand the importance of ideating. Over to you, Herman.
Right, so one of the earlier speakers spoke at length about creativity. And that is the genesis of what ideation is all about. Coming up with your ideas, creating, and really looking to see how your product could be differentiated from other products that are already on the market, right? So that if it is that you are selling, I'll just use an example, you know, you want to sell doubles, everybody's selling doubles one particular way. I mean, somewhere in Cipriani, I went and I was buying doubles, the guy had meat with the doubles, then he have some other condiments with it. So that was his way of differentiating, and it tasted good, right? Other people will sell roti, and they may have a whole wheat roti. They have a new thing come out now where they call it pepper roti. I don't know if you all hear about that, right? So it's a pepper roti where they have some vegetables inside, and it's peppery, you know. So I'm saying, so persons now understand, okay, here what everybody doing something a particular way. I have a particular way. I could do it differently, and that's where the ideation comes in terms of how are you now going to look at the market, do your research, ask questions like what Shivani was saying, talk to different persons now, and really now come up with a creative way of producing of sending out your product out to the market. And with the ideation, as you were saying too, you know, there are different frameworks, but we don't have the time to get into it now in terms of how you could actually do it. And we've seen there on the screen there where, you know, there are different exercises could be done. And that's when we run design thinking workshops, it's very similar to that, where in the workshop process, we actually now coming up with particular ideas, particular scenarios, using the design thinking framework and process, and figuring out now how if we get a problem like how we're using the problem with the wine, how we could ideate now and come up with a new way of putting a particular product on the market, right? So we run out of time, so I'll just go down to the part where, and then again there's the testing, right, in terms of how you could test your product, and the testing part is where, you know, you go out to the market. Now, remember we talk about prototyping, so you take the prototype, you carry it out there, you get persons to taste it if it's a food product. If it's a service, you test the service, if it's you know, in terms of what it is you're doing for the public. If it's like a restaurant business where you're providing a service as well as a product, you find ways in terms of how you can test it for persons to validate the business that you're doing, right? All these things are very important, because if you just go out there with a product or a service without passing through these steps. One particular example was there was some persons, there was a mall, right? The mall had an upstairs area, and people felt, you know what, if you put a bar in the upstairs mall, you know, that might be something that people might want. But they say, you know what, let's go out and ask questions. So they do a little survey, people who pass in the mall, they say, you know, if we have a little bar upstairs in the mall, you know, do you think people want to come to the bar with? And everybody say, yeah, that sounds like a real good idea. And, you know, they do the survey, everybody say yes, and they get so good test results and everything from the survey. They didn't do the prototyping stage, meaning to say what they should have done was actually set up a mini something of a bar before they put out money. They didn't do that. When they did the survey and everybody said yes, and they got good results from the survey that they did, they went ahead and spent the $150,000 to set up the bar. And in the first month, they only get about 10 people coming upstairs. What went wrong there? That was the prototyping stage come in, where you actually set up a prototype, right, of the idea that you have, run it, let's see what's happening, because it could be other areas that you didn't think about in terms of your product or your service that you need to have. And in this whole concept, there's what we call push and pull. Sometimes you may not have the resources as a small entrepreneur to push a product on the market. What is the better thing to do is let the market pull the product, right? And in this testing stage, that is what you're trying to verify. Am I trying to push a product on the market that the market doesn't want at this point in time, or is it better that the market pulls the product? And that is where this whole concept of testing comes in, right? And again, so we have the COVID-19 example that I don't think we have enough time to get into now. So I'll just hand it back over to Shivani to kind of close off the session.
Thanks, Herman. So as we are really bringing to you as entrepreneurs that design thinking is a process that can work. We have worked it. We have worked it with wine. We have worked it with chocolate. We have worked it with coffee. Presently they have really improved their products and added value to their products. We have used design thinking in facilities management. We have used design thinking in technology, IT, business strat. It works. It really, really does work. And especially now that, this whole world is changing, globalization, everything is changing. We want to be able to distinguish our products. And we can. We have used design thinking, especially in the L&D space. So what are your design thinking takeaways? Of course, we are saying we can sit down and really discuss this more with you all, right? We want to do it. Design thinking takeaways. Tip 1, design thinking works best having discussion with different colleagues. So, the wine person with the example, she started to talk to a different wine person. She started to talk to different people as well. So talk to colleagues. In facilities management, is FM right across, Herman and myself. That's what we're doing. We're collaborating. Ideation. So speak to persons. That's empathy. You have to talk. You have to connect with people. You have to converse. And you can converse with us. That's what we're here to do. Tip 2. It fosters the element of inspiration and moves people to action. The last two speakers, they were talking about you may have an idea and you want to be able to action it out. You need a system, you need a structure, even though, sometimes we say don't be too structured, but we need a little structure, right? Tip 2, so it fosters the element of inspiration and moves people to action. Tip 3, you do not have to be a designer. Because, when with Herman and I first, over a couple of years now, we started to speak about design thinking. People say, well, what, do you have to be a designer? You have to design something? You don't have to be a designer. I'm not a designer to apply design thinking. And tip 4. Tip 4. Focus on empathy and trying new things. Now, we also have a poll, right? We have a poll. We're running the poll online. And we can also show the poll here to know that if you all probably listen to us a little bit on ideation. So our design thinking story. Now, we have a design thinking story. Each of us have our personal design thinking stories. But we came together to have one design thinking story that we are pushing. Now, who are we? We are part of a larger team. We are known as the disruptors. We come to disrupt the status quo, right? We have Richard. He's a strategist. We have Herman, who you met, ideator, Karen, digital learning innovator, and you have myself. Well, I'm the disruptor. I think you all get that point already, right? So this is who we are. We are here to build the platform for design thinking to really cause a whole new way to think, right? Disrupt the status quo and improve our products and our services. We wish to say thank you to everyone for hearing us today. And if you have any questions, this is our email. You can definitely get through to us, and NEDCO can definitely give us more information. Thank you again, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Shivani, and thank you so much, Herman, and of course, thank you to our earlier speaker, Roger Roach. We only have 5 minutes for Q&A, so if anybody wants to ask a question, now is your time. I didn't see any questions coming from online, so I guess the group in front of me, you have the full 5 minutes. Any question at all for the people who would have just given us our masterclass, for Shivani and Herman and Roger? Design thinking being that disruptor in the business. Any questions? Any questions going once? Again, not seeing any questions online. Yes, of course.
Just waited for anyone to answer. But what if we figure that we want to design something, Shivani pointed it out, and we feel that I am not good enough. I don't have ideas. A lot of us, what you call think book mentality, good opinions of what else. How could we overcome that? Yeah, how could we overcome getting, I am not a thinker. I'm not this kind of ideas person, but we have ideas. That disbelief in ourselves, that's imposter syndrome. How can we overcome that area which deals with mindset into moving forward?
Nice. I'm seeing Shivani.
Thank you, Dennis. Right, so with design thinking, as we said, will help us to come about with the idea. It takes you through a 5-step process where your mind changes, because once you see something that can work, you will work it, so your mindset will change. So we are saying that design thinking can change your mindset. Change your mindset to come about with the idea. That once you follow this model and you follow the step and you have great discussions, the idea will come, but you have to follow it. Thank you, Dennis.
Nice. I see that we have some questions here online. I'm going to go through it quickly. I'm going to only take about 2, and then we can probably continue when we start back with lunch. And I lost the questions. But I know somebody was asking about financial backing. And so the question would have been, and this is for Shivani or Herman or even to Roger, they were asking about how can you use your own capital, or when can you use your own capital or your own funding versus when you outsource or you crowdsource for that type of financial gain. So I'm throwing it out to you. The person is generally asking, how do you know when to use your own money, your own capital, or when to go to seed funding? Shivani or Herman?
We need a mic.
Right, yeah. So it's a complex question in terms of it all depends on the type of product or service, right? There are some products and services that require a very heavy capital injection for it to be viable, right? But in smaller scenarios, there's cottage industries, you could use your own funding, you could use family funds, you could use savings that you have, because what you're trying to do at a certain point, as I was saying earlier, is a complete prototype that you could test the market with. Right, and then the next stage after that, now you want some sort of product that could actually now have a proof of concept, right? Again, it all depends, because like for instance, we worked with a guy. He was without trying to sell out too much what the idea is, but he was trying to come up with a type of toilet system similar to what you have with partial disposals, but it's something that could be more mobile, right? So like that you could use in FETs and so on. Yeah. So in that case, because that is a particular type of invention or product that requires a lot of capital investment, because a lot of technology had to go into what he was doing, automation systems, because he wanted the thing to be such a way when you walk towards it, door open automatically, everything was supposed to be automatic and so on. Those type of projects will require capital investment. So there was a particular point where he reached with his own savings, right, in terms of what he would have had and family and so on. And then now he would have had to now go take it a step further and go to other lending agencies. In that case, he went to Korea and so on to get more capital injection to go forward now to what you call a minimum viable product, right? So again, I'm not saying it all depends on what the product is. Again, if it's like a small cottage industry, something, you're making a little pepper, you're making a little wine or something. In many cases, from a Trinidad and Tobago scenario, we may have enough savings, that we could push that product forward up to the point where it's a minimum viable product, and they could now take it to investors, and if they see it viable, then if they want, they could invest and they could take it forward.
All right, and we'll pause on that. Thank you so much, Herman. And this is the end of our question and answer segment. The first person who is going to join us is Mr. Herman Herbert. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you so much for the presentation. So much, Shivani.